Okay, thank you very much. So, the SOM Christmas Lecture 2020. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this evening. We've got some members and we've got others, including some corporate supporters, the SOM OH Commercial Providers Leadership Group, and members of the multidisciplinary groups, including the British Occupational Hygiene Society, CIEHF, Royal College of Nursing, and other leaders from the Nursing and Midwifery Council. Many of you will know or know of people with whom we've worked with closely. For example, Bill Bruce. Could I just ask everybody to turn their microphones on to mute, please? Many of you will know or know of a number of people we've worked with closely, including Bill Bruce. He's the CEO of our sister organisation in the United States, Dr. Mike Goldsmith, Chair of SOM OH Commercial Providers Leadership Group, Dr. Tony Williams, who I've just been talking to. Hello, Tony. Tony's very special. He's co-authored the COVID Age Tool. Dr. Ander Bono, President of FOM, Dr. Andrew Curran, Chief Scientific Officer of the HSE, Dr. Steve Nimmo, Editor of the Journal of Occupational Medicine and President-elect of FOM, Emma Marmo, Head of Workplace Health at Mind. We've worked really closely with a number of you on various projects recently. Professor Gail Kinman, an occupational psychologist who's been integral to two SOM publications. The first, a systematic review considering the mental health of nurses and midwives. And the second, responding to the death of suicide of a colleague in primary care, a post-vention framework. She's going to be integral to some further work that we are planning, which is focused on mental health. And we're undertaking that on behalf of Public Health England. So that's quite a coup. You've all supported us, and just as importantly, supported each other over this extremely challenging year. Finally, I'd like to mention Angus Gray and Dr. Di Lloyd, MS. Angus Gray is Director of the Joint Work and Health Unit of the DWP and Department of Health and Social Care. Dr. Di Lloyd, MS, is member of the Welsh Synod, and he'd hoped to attend the live event. Di is a GP by profession and chairs the Synod Health, Social Care and Sport Committee. Di emailed me earlier today indicating that he'd hoped to attend the live meeting, but unfortunately, he now has a Synod COVID-19 meeting scheduled for this evening, but he's looking forward to watching the recorded version. Di, you can see this. When you do watch that recording, this is the book that we spoke of when we met earlier this year virtually, The Citadel. I first read it when I was at university and periodically returned to it for a bit of inspiration. Following our meeting, it's on my reading list now for the Christmas period. I'd also like to recommend another book to you, which I would have brought to the table, but it was rather heavy to lift up. And that's the Hunter's Diseases of Occupations. Really interesting read. This evening's event has been planned to be both thought-provoking and entertaining. Shortly, Dame Carol Black, who's one of our patrons, will be giving our Christmas lecture. So thank you, Carol. We really appreciate you being both a patron and spending the time this evening to deliver that lecture. And because this is Christmas, her presentation will highlight how OH has been in the front line more than ever this year, just as a celebration of what everybody's done. This will then be followed by some magic from Peter Wardell. I hope you've got a glass of something, so I've got some nice red wine here because it's good for me, just to celebrate this year and to make the evening special. This time last year, we were beginning to learn of reports of a novel coronavirus. Few, if any of us, would have anticipated that this would become a pandemic with absolutely dire consequences for nations across the world, and particularly for many health professionals and other key workers. The development of COVID vaccine is such good news, and here's hoping that 2021 will be a significant improvement on 2020. Nick, Will and I value the work of all the SOM regional groups in the UK and the international groups. Every year, SOM recognises the work of a regional group who has seen the largest increase in membership. This year, the North West Regional Group and the Yorkshire Group have seen the biggest increase. And I'd like to pay tribute to Neil Smith, who has led the Yorkshire Group so admirably over the years. And it's interesting they're either side of the Pennines, and being a Lancastrian, that's rather interesting. So many of us this year have seen the death of relatives, friends, and healthcare colleagues, often as the result of COVID-19. And my thoughts are with you and of the friends, colleagues, and families of several of our members who have died over the last year. Number of members I've got information on here: Dr. Stephen Doherty, Dr. Douglas Bell, Dr. Graham Page, Dr. Charles Arthur Vey, OBE, who was past president of the British Occupational Hygiene Society, Dr. Nick Richards, Dr. Steve McVitie, Sir Peter Froggatt, a past Vice-Chancellor of Queen's University Belfast and an honorary member of SOM, Dr. Ian Hughes Hallett. I didn't know those people that I've just mentioned personally, but I am aware that they all made a significant contribution to worker health and were valued SOM members. I do know more of the following two people who I'd like to highlight now: Dr. John Poole and Dr. Ileana St. Clair. Ileana, like Dr. John Poole, had such an early death. Although I did not know John, I'm aware from Nick Powell and Dr. Vicky Mason, chair of SOM Council, that he did much for SOM over a number of years, and they both speak very highly of him. I did, however, meet Ileana at a number of meetings and had the pleasure of working with her when we were both involved in the selection of occupational medicine trainees on behalf of the National School of Occupational Health. Although diligent, professional, and very serious while we were working, after work was done, she really was such fun. A lovely, kind, and memorable lady. And I think I'll remember her for a long time because she made such an impact on me. So although it's sad to think of the death of all these colleagues, this is our opportunity to celebrate their lives and to celebrate the impact each of them has had on occupational medicine and occupational health. So now I'd like to introduce Dame Carol Black. Carol is one of our very valued patrons, and after she has done her presentation, there will be time for discussions and questions afterwards. So over to you, Dame Carol.
Thank you very much. Now let's see if I can share my screen with you.
I think you click on the top left-hand corner.
There.
Yeah, no, the black thing. The black thing.
There.
No, the black thing, the top left. There, down a bit. There.
Carol.
I'm not the world's most sort of superb at these sort of things. So, look, good evening. And it's a delight to be here. Nick very easily twisted my arm to do this. And I sort of feel I'm the filling between now and the real fun with the magician. But it's nevertheless a great pleasure and privilege to do this. And I really want to start by congratulating you all and saying a big thank you for your contribution to what has been going on with COVID, because you have responded in an amazing way to the pandemic. You've really just shown your worth. And so what I want to say to start with is, please seize this moment. I've always felt, as many of you know, that occupational medicine and occupational health in general undersells itself. And you really have that moment to seize now. So please do that. This really came to me through an American colleague. So these words are not my own, but they're what I really think. I believe occupational health professionals to be. And you really are positioned at that crossroads of the employer-employee healthcare interface. Therefore, you should be powerful. You should be listened to in places in government. And I do think that the COVID, it's done many, many bad things, but I think it's given you this opportunity to push for further recognition, because you have shown how much you have supported individuals, organizations, and tried as much as you could to protect productivity and economic growth. If you think about it, you've got unique training and expertise. You understand that link between health and productivity, and how to help injured and ill and the aging worker remain at work and productive. And so you also have a very logical role in advocating prevention-orientated programs that really enable people to maintain their health and be productive citizens. I wanted to say that right at the beginning. What I'm going to try and cover is a bit of history, some emerging themes, which we can see when we look at health and well-being in the workplace, then some look at a little bit about different aspects of COVID, and then just think about a way forward. This paper was recommended to me in my first year as National Director for Health and Work, and an occupational health physician sent it to me and said, you know, a long time ago, Carol, we were told really what we needed to do in occupational health. He said this 1950 article written by Donald Stewart, The Future of Occupational Health, it said very clearly the things that, as you will remember, I found in my first report, Working for a Healthier Tomorrow, the need for first-class postgraduate education facilities, OH services to be approved, suggestion of regional consultants, etc., a national advisory council. We've gone, of course, some way towards that. And this integration that people have talked about often between GPs and hospitals and OH, and the real importance of teaching and research units, and a level playing field for the employer. And so this goes back a long time. It's 1950. When I wrote Working for a Healthier Tomorrow, this is what I talked about then. And as many of you know, I did say there was a need for change. I wanted you to be more visible and more important and more integrated into mainstream medicine. I wanted it to come into mainstream healthcare provision. And I asked at that time about addressing a wider remit, working more closely with public health and general practice, and really thinking very much about vocational rehabilitation, which I simply define as anything that will help anyone get back to work or remain in work. And again, have really clear workforce plans, a strengthening of your academic base, and good quality data and analysis and formal accreditation of all providers. And none of this comes as a surprise to you, because you will all have read it all those years ago. And what I've observed in so much that has gone on in occupational medicine is a sort of tug of war. People who are very comfortable with where occupational medicine has been, no need for change, and perhaps some fear of the unknown, with those who want it to develop and grow and embrace the future of work and do things differently. And it has moved on one side or the other over the years that I've been involved in health and work. So that's just a little bit of history. But I think if you look to what are the emerging workplace health and well-being themes, and this is outside of the province of conventional health and safety, as we think of it under the HSE, then mental health and its extent and associations. And of course, that has actually become even more of a challenge with COVID. The younger worker, I think it was coming through even before COVID, that many younger workers were in several surveys demonstrating poorer mental health. Women, and they've got quite a few risks in employment. And if you look at the lifetime risks of a woman and her working life, you can see there are pinch points where it would be good for employers to be cognizant of them, their extra caring responsibilities. Obviously, the menopause, which is now talked about much more, and the earlier risks earlier in their career, when they may take time out, and often they come back to jobs of lesser importance. The increasing musculoskeletal problems, which I suspect are worse now we've all been trying to work from home, and many people without adequate ergonomic advice. And the rise of presenteeism. People are often fixated by absence because it's easy to count. You just count a number. But in fact, over the last, I would say probably 5 or 6 years, the rise of people being at work, but not really able to give of their best. And that may be because they're sick, but don't want to say so. It may be that they're anxious and worried. It can be for a whole host of reasons. And people define presenteeism in different ways. But there is some evidence, particularly from the data from Britain's Healthiest Workplace Survey, that poor mental health is probably the biggest driver of presenteeism. And then talked about a lot, and of course there've been reports on this, the lack of good work and a lack of a positive workplace culture. And emerging from all of that, the centrality of the role of leaders, boards, and managers to create the right organizational culture and the atmosphere in which employees can trust the place they work and the people for whom they work. And I often ask myself, where does occupational health and occupational medicine sit with respect to this list? I just wanted to spend a minute or two just thinking about presenteeism. This is data taken from the 2019 Britain's Healthiest Workplace Survey, which is a survey taken in organizations and businesses by both the employer and the employee. And the results are dealt with separately. The employee gets an individual, of course, anonymized report to themselves. The employer gets a report on the health and well-being of their organization. In that year, 130 organizations, public and private, large and medium-sized, participated, about 26,000, just over participants. And you can see there the attribution of productivity loss as calculated in this survey, far more to presenteeism than absence. And when you looked at the determinants of absence and the determinants of presenteeism, again in this survey, when it came to presenteeism, mental health had a much more prominent place than physical health, and vice versa. And what they talked about in the publication of the report on the 2019 results, that indeed presenteeism was more prevalent in that particular 26,000 employees in the younger age group, driven, as I've said, by poor mental health. And often the causes of that poor mental health could be financial concerns, poor sleep, inappropriate managers, bullying and harassment at work, etc. And that they noted that there was an increase in the incidence of presenteeism over time, and explained in that report that they thought organizational culture was of prime importance. And this is just the final slide from that particular year of that survey. And it's just looking at the different age groups, starting at the top with the 18 to 20-year-olds, going right down to the 66-year-olds. Anything that's red is worse than average, yellow is average, and green is better than average. And you can see when you look at, for example, lost days, the young seem to do worse than the older worker. I think you would expect that when it comes to inactivity, the young are more active than the old, etc. But as you go along, poor diets, binge drinking, smoking, poor quality sleep. And then when it comes to mental health, there's an awful lot of red there for the younger worker. And these results are, of course, before COVID had a chance to strike. And I did mention women's risks in employment. I just would highlight that once more. And just to point out that at the end of their working lives, you can see that men, on average, had 4 times the pension wealth of women and 5 times it by the time women were between 65 and 69. The Financial Times reports each year on Britain's Healthiest Workplace survey. And the last time, which was the year before COVID, Chris Whitty, just then starting as CMO for England, did the forward to the report. And you can see what Chris had to say there. That taking the same scientific approach to testing interventions to promote health at work could be key to the advantages in the next decade, because he pointed out that safety and occupational diseases have been transformed by a combination of science-led industrial practice and legislation. And he said many organizations are very systematic and evidence-led about efficiency, productivity, and investment, and are rather unsystematic on health improvement. Now, I'm not sure that one could easily do randomized controlled trials in the workplace, but I do suspect that we could do better than we do at present. So really what Chris was calling for was more data collection and better evidence gathering and rigor to our work. I'm sure many of you saw that Public Health England had developed a toolkit. They teamed up with CIPD and the Northumbria Trust. This toolkit provides a guide for employers to develop their workplace health offer. And it isn't always easy. And very often the question you're asked is, well, I understand it's important, but tell me, what should I do? And so this is quite a useful toolkit, has indeed been published. And then came COVID. And as you know, whether you were a frontline worker working from home, furloughed with all that might bring, indeed conditioning to work, actually losing your job, or thinking about returning to work, each of those groups had their own risks and their own worries. And of course, the return to work for many people is very complex challenging and frightening. I mean, they had almost been taught to fear going out and certainly going back into the workplace. And I don't need to tell this group of people here this evening that when you lose your job, there's a very large mental health deficit associated with unemployment. Just one or two small pieces of data. There's so much data out there on the on COVID and the workplace and what the public think. But this is from the King's Fund London and Ipsos Mori. And again, it'll come as no surprise to you that the public overwhelmingly place health above the economy. Just some of the facts they reported in this survey: a significant increase in alcohol consumption, which I think has preceded this, was conducted in May, and I think that's continued to be reported. Depression or anxiety, people putting on weight, they're perhaps not doing their regular commutes and therefore doing less physical activity. This real worry about losing their job and many seeing a fall in their income. And of course, the real worry that people have postponed seeking non-medical advice. This again was Ipsos Mori, a bit later in June. And now this is looking at 800 nationally representative employee interviews with 26 human resource director interviews, various sectors and sizes. And I suspect most of these findings you will have read about in the last few months, but I think the good thing that there were positive vibes at that time of that survey of people having a pride in their organization, feeling that so many organizations, to their very best ability, had done what they could. They had gone the extra mile to try and make a rather terrible situation as good as it could be. By June, a somewhat worrying finding that motivation was deteriorating in some employees. Of course, this will vary from sector to sector. Furloughing staff feeling very much less engaged and more worried about the future. And I've worried a great deal that furloughing will have the same effect as being absent from work for sickness absence, because we know from that data that when you've been out of work for 6 weeks, after that, every week makes it less likely that you will return to the place of work. I've mentioned women already in the workplace, but there was the Ipsos Mori work here, but a very good paper in an economic journal showing that in a way women have felt much less confident and more lonely during COVID. And then, of course, none of us know where all this will settle and what will be the amount of remote working when we do eventually come through COVID and get out the other end. And again, I won't delay on this very much, but none of this will surprise you. If you were furloughed, you didn't feel quite so proud of the organization you were working for. You were slightly less confident about decisions. And you thought that maybe your employer perhaps were they taking the steps to ensure the viability of your work activity. So furloughed people certainly more worried and not as secure. And then, of course, there was the CIPD Good Work Index in June. And I think we are now seeing coming through that general mental health has worsened since the outbreak. You can see the figures there. And indeed, sleep. People are finding it harder to fall asleep. And again, a report of people finding their quality of sleep was not so good. And this is the paper in the economic journal I was talking about, documenting a decline in the mental well-being of women compared to men, twice as large for women. as for men. And they thought, although I find it quite, I suppose, surprising, that it was social factors and loneliness, which they thought contributed most to this. So what about COVID and the society? Well, as I said right at the beginning, I think this has given you the ability to shine and I hope to grow. And I've just put a few examples there of the excellent things which you've either been partnering with to produce or doing yourself. And they're all very good things that were necessary. I think you've become a powerful lobbying organization, and really, really pleased to see the mental health blogs and events. So I think these are things that you should be rightly proud of. And I had a look at William's lecture, and I just thought I could do no better than take from that lecture the lessons he thought had been learned for SOM, the importance of this leadership and clear communication, very much the need for occupational medicine expertise in government. I think we would all agree it is sadly lacking. Again, that need to align the expertise that you have with the politics, and as I said right at the beginning, to be important in the corridors of power. And the benefits of multidisciplinary working and the treatments, but also William talked very clearly about the trade-offs, and there are, of course, trade-offs. I think we should note, and I don't know that the situation has changed, the real awful effect that COVID has had on the nation's well-being. The ONS, of course, does a well-being measurement, if you like, an index of what is our well-being like as a nation, and it's at its lowest ever recorded level. And 1 in 2 adults said that COVID-19 was affecting their well-being, and it came top of the list of other things that they were measuring. And so I think, I'd be just interested in your ideas of can occupational health and can occupational medicine add value to well-being? And this comes from Occupational Health at Work 2020 by Jenny Napier and Kevin Davis. But I rather like what was being said there. That if you connect occupational health practices to well-being, it can be seen to encompass a broader and perhaps more aspirational conceptualization of prevention, health promotion, and management of workplace hazards. And the newer hazards, and there are many in the workplace, include this always-on culture, the effect on mental health and sleep, and how are we all going to adapt to what might seem like a very good offer of a more flexible career with its pathways and jobs. But again, for some people, definitely causing anxiety and worry. Some people definitely worry that well-being is soft and fluffy, but I think since the founding of the What Works Centre for Wellbeing, as you know, chaired by Paul Litchfield, it has been providing high quality evidence for government, communities and businesses. And of course, it doesn't just report on work, it reports much more widely because its goal, as it says there, is to improve and save lives through better policy and practices for well-being. But they think there are 5 main drivers of well-being at work, and I think we could probably all really agree with them. Managerial capabilities, improving job quality, enhancing social relationships at work, etc. And I would have thought the first three encompass primary prevention and control of risks. So I think would be covered by UK legislation, but you'll correct me if I'm wrong. And I believe very much that the last two could be enhanced by occupational health input. So I think COVID has exposed the very close relationship between economics and health control of the virus and controlling of the economy. Enabling workforce physical and mental health and well-being, if you can do that, and you improve productivity and the economy. And I think we should see COVID-19 as an opportunity to accelerate change, make it a high concern of CEOs, a boardroom issue, and a major KPI for managers. So take public health into the workplace and make OH a central part of that answer and not an add-on, to my mind, is extremely important. So really coming to an end, I think the pandemic, there's so many bad things about it, but it has shown the need for and the value of high quality occupational health services. And that, of course, we have seen, if you like, in a cluster and all together in the NHS over the past 8 months. I think we need, in the future, a better central understanding in government, and I would say both locally and centrally, and a commitment to the need for occupational medicine input into strategic decision making, and that the voice of OH should be heard at the boardroom table. I know that can't be in every organisation, some are too small, but the idea of that corporate medical director role is really a very good example of that. I think it could be encouraged, and it brings greater depth and breadth of knowledge to support a healthy, engaged, and high-performing workforce. So I would say the future, in a way, is yours. We should have more of your expertise and leadership available to the population, because the world of work is going to look very different when we come through this. We are going to have to deal and understand much better home working. There are going to be great challenges of mental health and well-being. And you have shown during the pandemic, you can deliver the wider health and well-being agenda to very good effect without losing all the really important other parts of your professional practice. So I would say to you, have a joyous Christmas, and I'll leave you with a quote from Albert Einstein. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Carol. That was a really interesting and thought-provoking presentation. One message I want to take away is that OH should be heard at the boardroom table. So important. If we can make an effect at the very top and get that to filter down through the organisation, we will have done a good job. It's interesting you referred to Jenny Napier's paper. I first met, and I use the word met in inverted commas, her by telephone. I was in South Africa. I presume it was around Easter because that's the usual time I go out there. And she was in the UK. She'd met a colleague of mine at the Birmingham conference, and the colleague suggested that we have a chat because she was thinking of applying for the occupational medicine trainee post through FOM. And we had quite a long chat. I was in South Africa overlooking the Table Bay, and she was somewhere in the UK taking her dog for a walk. What a fantastic discussion we had. And she then joined, she's got a traineeship, and she joined SOM, and she's now involved in a project that we're involved in for leadership, which is superb. From your presentation, Carol, I was so pleased that you spoke of the SOM resources, which are developed to support health professionals, HR professionals, employers and employees alike. I personally found it really fulfilling to participate in developing many of these and work within teams that included psychologists, physicians, physiotherapists, hygienists, ergonomists, and the expected occupational physicians. It was really fulfilling to have such a multi-professional approach to developing some really worthwhile resources. And I'd like to thank the people I worked with. And Astrid, you're in the middle of my screen at the moment. You were one of them. Thank you. So the SOM toolkits and webinars resulted from that multi-professional working and demonstrated leadership par excellence. Well, this pandemic has certainly been horrific, but there are now bright shafts of light at the end of what has been a long, dark tunnel. COVID brought workplace health to the forefront, providing SOM with so many opportunities, including regular multidisciplinary meetings involving so many organisations, and I'll just pick out a few: the British Psychological Society, the Health and Safety Executive, the Faculty of Occupational Health Nursing, the Faculty of Occupational Medicine, and the Faculty of Public Health. I could give a longer list, but we'd be here all night. In my capacity as president, and also as a SOM member, I've found it rewarding and stimulating to work with so many leaders and policymakers, something I would never have thought I'd have had the opportunity to do. So I'm really pleased to be the president this year of SOM. It's an absolute honour. A number of the SOM resources have been developed in association with really august bodies, including, but not restricted to, the World Health Organization, the BPS, the Royal College of Psychiatrists, the CIPD, Mind, and Business in the Community. Our resources have been available to an international audience. We've got links to our American colleagues, to colleagues in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. So just as you were saying, Carol, at the end of your presentation, we must continue to seize this moment. Never before has occupational health and occupational medicine been in the limelight. And it's sad it's because of COVID, but I guess it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. So after the academic aspect, I'd now like to introduce Peter Wardell. He's a Gold Star member of the Inner Magic Circle and was the first magician in the history of the Magic Circle to win both Stage Magician and Close-Up Magician of the Year awards. I'm fascinated by illusions and magic tricks. It's just incredible. I love them. So I'm really looking forward to this element of tonight's presentation. So Peter, over to you for a bit of magic. I can see Peter's curtains there.
Hello. Hello, how are you? Good evening.
Good.
Can you all hear me? That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
This is the first question ever. We always ask on a Zoom call, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see me? That's fantastic. Look, my name is Peter Wardell. I am a magician, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I am going to share with you a little bit of my magic. And in order to do this most effectively on Zoom, because I know some of you will be thinking, well, how's this going to work? Well, I'll explain. The most important thing is that while you're watching this, if you have your video on and you have your sound on, but I'd like you to mute yourselves actually, if you wouldn't mind, because then if you're on speaker view, I will pop up big on the screen, And let's face it, it's all about me, isn't it? For the next half an hour, it's all about me. So we're going to start with a little warm up. This is my warm up for you and for me. This is the way it works, because I know you've been sitting in front of a screen for a little while now. So I just want to sort of change the dynamic slightly. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you wouldn't mind, is I'd like you all to extend your hands towards the screen, if you wouldn't mind. But extend your hands towards the screen. And what I want you to do is to wiggle your fingers towards the screen as well. Then turn your hands back to back like this. Just turn your hands back to back and link your fingers together like this. Link your fingers together with your hands back to back. Wonderful stuff. Just checking everyone got that. Yep. Wonderful. Now with your fingers like that, what I want you to do is to point your fingers, your forefingers towards the screen. Point your forefingers towards the screen. And then very, very slowly, what you're going to do, if you listen, you'll hear it happen. And I want you to turn your hands so your thumbs are now pointing up towards. No one. And that's fine. That's the point. That is the point, that no one, that's kind of it. So now look, so now we're all warmed up. We're in a different frame of mind than we were from before. I would like to try a very quick trick just to make sure that the connection is a good connection. Now, in order to do this, I am looking for somebody. I've been given some names of people who would be more than willing to join me up here on my virtual stage, as it were. So I'm going to see if I'm going to do this, and then if I switch, there is Astrid. Astrid, are you there? Astrid, there you are. Let me see if I can bring you in on my little. There you go. So Astrid has now joined me on stage. Look, she's literally joined me up here on stage. Astrid, that's it. That is the magic. Someone who knows how to use Zoom. Astrid, what I'd like you to do for me is this. Do you happen to have a packet of playing cards on you? Perfect. That's great. That's fine, Astrid. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, if you wouldn't mind. Were you able to unmute yourself, or could our host unmute you? Would that be possible? Just unmute yourself, if you don't mind. Let me see. I'll click that, and then there you go. Wonderful. Astrid, that's perfect. Thank you. Astrid, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to play a little game of imagination over the internet, okay? Astrid, what I want you to do for me just for now is I want you to imagine that I'm throwing you a packet of playing cards, because you don't have a packet. So I'm going to throw you a packet of playing cards. You need to catch them, okay? So I'm throwing them, you catch them. There we go. Yep. Wonderful stuff. Now, Astrid, I want you to take the cards out of the box for me. Take them out of the box. So take those cards out of the box, and I want you to shuffle them up, Astrid. Shuffle them up. You can shuffle as fancy as you like, because they're not really there, Astrid. So that's wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Now, Astrid, what I want you to do now is to fan through those cards and find one card that you like the look of. You can choose any one you like. Now, make sure it's not an obvious card like the Ace of Spades or the Queen of Hearts, but you choose one and then turn it round and put it back into the pack the opposite way to all the other cards. And what I want you to do now, you're not showing me, Astrid. Yeah, you can hide them. Now, Astrid, what I want you to do is I want you to throw me the cards, if you wouldn't mind. Throw me the cards. Throw them back to me. Oh, blimey, Astrid, that was very good. Good throw, Astrid. Good throw. Wonderful. Now, Astrid, that was very good. Astrid, what I want you to do is, can you tell me the name of the card that you turned around? What was the card that you turned around?
7 of diamonds.
The 7 of diamonds. And just to prove that this is the same pack, Astrid, I'm going to run through here, and you're going to see that there is one card, actually one card turned face down. There is one card turned face down in my pack. There it is. One card and one card only. All the other cards are the right way around, apart from this one. And Astrid, just to show you that we were working together via the internet, that is actually the 7 of diamonds. I have no idea how you did it, Astrid. An absolute legend. There we are. Thank you. So well done. We see it's working. We have a connection now. We obviously have good Wi-Fi, and that's what matters when you're doing a Zoom show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am an old school kind of sleight of hand kind of guy. So I want to share a little bit of sleight of hand with you now. And in order to do this, I'm going to use my, I'm just going to move back to this screen so we can see. There we go. So what we've got here is I am going to use this. This is a coin. This is a silver dollar. This is simply proof that I'm a lonely man with no television and too much spare time on my hands, to be honest with you. And I'm also going to use this. This is the magic stick. Now, the magic stick, importantly, you keep under your arm. Okay, now this is how this little bit of sleight of hand works. If I take the coin and I give it a tap, it becomes invisible. Now it really does become invisible. You can't see it, but it is actually there. If I tap it again, you'll see it. You see how this works. Now, look, I'll show you this again. If we take the coin and we give it a rub, it actually becomes the stick. Now, sometimes the stick actually becomes the coin. Because remember, I keep the stick under my arm. Now, I'm sure you're all with me on this. Now, look, so now we have it. We have the one coin here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to split it into two, and we'll do a trick with 2 coins. Now, the third coin is the most impressive because it's actually going to appear at my fingertips. Watch as the third coin appears at my fingertips. There. Yeah, these fingertips. I was being a bit dishonest there. I was being a little bit disingenuous with it. It's a 3-coin trick now, ladies and gents. 3-coin trick. My little table, and I have 1, 2, 3 coins. Now, as I say, if you go into speaker view, you'll get a better view of this. So please don't. So this is what I'm going to ask you. All you can do is you watch the 3 coins. Now I'm going to try and make one of the coins travel from here over to here. Now, at this point, there are 2 things you can do. You can either watch the 1 coin here and the 2 coins here, or you can watch the 2 coins here and the 1 coin here. Now, the last coin, I'm going to do very, very slowly for you. Watch it closely. The last coin. Yeah, it's not great. I realize that. But you have 1 here. You have 2 here. Now, a lot of people think I have another one over here, which I do, which leaves me with 1, 2, 3 coins. And that's it. And obviously you get to keep those. Oh yeah, sorry, it's not going to work that way, is it? So there we go. That's just a little bit of warming up, a little bit of sleight of hand nonsense for you. So moving on with the sleight of hand, I understand there are some people here who have packets of playing cards with them. I'll bring my little table back. Let me just rearrange my screens here. I'm going to rearrange my screens. I am going to Oh, the technology. I'll leave it as it is. Let me just unpin. There we go. Hopefully. Now, I understand there are some people who have playing cards with them. Has anyone got a packet of playing cards? Now, I can't see all of you, obviously, because you're across multiple screens here. You're across multiple screens. Does everybody have a packet? Anybody have a packet of playing cards with them? If you do, wave it up around like this, because what I'm going to ask you to do, those people with a packet of playing cards, fantastic. I'm going to ask you to shuffle up the cards. So give the cards a good shuffle up, mix up the cards, mix them up. And we're going to sort of play that game of person who cuts. Now, while you're shuffling, I'll explain. What this does is it not only mixes up the order of the cards, but it also gives those people who don't have a packet of playing cards time to reflect. And I think that's quite important. So now we've got the cards shuffled. I want everybody who has a packet of playing cards, what I want you to do is just to cut the cards somewhere round about the middle, a third of the card, and hold the card that you cut to up to the screen. We are going to play the highest card wins. We have an 8 of hearts. We've got a 6 of diamonds. Let me see what else we've got. We've got an 8 of hearts, a 6 of diamonds. Oh, there's an ace of diamonds there. I don't think anyone's going to beat an ace of diamonds. Is anyone going to beat the ace of diamonds? Do we have anything above? We've got a 10. We've got the ace of diamonds, and the ace of diamonds belongs to Mangala. Is that how you pronounce that? Mangala, have I pronounced your name correctly? Wonderful stuff. Now, Mangala, what I'm going to ask you to do with your ace of diamonds cards, I'm going to bring you up on stage for me. I'm going to bring you up on stage to join me. If I can just do this, and we will do this, and there you, oh, where have you gone? There you are. So Mangala, now you're up on stage with me. We're going to try something with your ace of diamonds. But first, I need to know, how many cards have you cut off in order to get to your ace of diamonds? Can you just count them and just tell me how many cards you cut off for me? You'll have to unmute yourself as well. I will let you. Oh, you have. Good. You can just make it
22.
up. 22. You cut to 22, okay, and you found the ace of diamonds. Well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to count down 1. This is 2. This is 3. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on my little table there, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You said 22. Was it the 22nd card
Yes,
in your
did.
pack? Was the ace of diamonds? And the 22nd card in my pack is also the ace of diamonds. So you see, we've got a match now. We are going to use the ace of diamonds. I'm going to use the ace of diamonds to do this next little bit. But the thing is, the problem with using the aces, I do actually use these in other parts of the show. So I'm just going to ask you to think of the ace of diamonds, Mangala, for me, and now make your mind go blank. Wonderful. The net result being that the ace of diamonds disappears altogether. But we are going to use your name, Mangala, on this card. Okay, I'm going to write Mangala on here. Mangala, wonderful. There it is, and there's your card. So this card is this is all about you now, Mangala. There's the card. There is your name. Very badly written, I'm afraid. I could have been a doctor, couldn't I? There we go, with handwriting like that. So now, Mangala. Now the name is on the card, it becomes unique. There's only one card like it. I'm going to take that card and I'm going to place it on my little table like this. I put these cards on top, I snap my fingers and your card will jump back to the top. Now, we didn't plan this or arrange this. We haven't sorted this or anything. There's the card. Look, if I put that here, I'm going to put all of these cards on top. Now, in case you think I'm cheating, and I am, it is my job. But it's not on the top. That's the 9 of spades. But look, we give a little snap. We put them back down here, a little snap, and your card jumps back to the top once more. One more time, very slowly, just to annoy you all. Entertain you, sorry. It's a very fine line. I appreciate that. I'm going to push the card forward with your name. Now, Mangala, that is definitely your name. Yes, definitely your name. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push that into there. Okay, so you'll see that going into the pack like that. I'm going to push that in. I'm going to put those cards around it like this. This goes down onto the table. And Mangala, a little snap of the fingers, and you'll see that your card once again rises to the top. Boom. And it turns into the 9 of spades, and the name, it's the wrong card. Hang on a sec. So I'm ever so sorry. It's not the 9, it's not the 2, it's not the queen, it's not the 3. It's in fact, I'm not sure it's any of these. If we look through, you'll see that there is no card with Mangala's name on it. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but if you have a little look behind me, you'll see a little man with a Santa hat on. And there's a little man, he's holding an envelope. And a little man with a Santa hat holding the envelope. It's like my Christmas elf. This is the Christmas card trick, you see. So I'm going to bring down my my little Christmas card. Now, to prove, I can actually prove that this is a Christmas card thing. Because if you look, you'll see on there, it says the North Pole. You see? It says on there, North Pole, airmail. And inside there is a card. And inside there is the card. That's the card. And the card just happens to be the card with Mangala written on it. There it is. Absolute nonsense.
Amazing.
It really is. Now, I appreciate that it is a little bit of nonsense, but I thought what I would do is, as we had some cards, let me come back to the main. I'm going to show you something else with the cards. Now, I'm going to do this in a way. Let me just, I just have to do a few things. This is what we have to do when we do this. I am going to teach you how to cheat with playing cards, okay? I'm going to teach you all how to cheat with playing cards. In order to do this, I just remember, because I got on a bit early, so I hadn't switched my camera on up here, so I'm just checking. So give me 2 seconds, ladies and gents. I'm just going to move to a different picture, which will look a bit odd, because I have to get this camera. And hopefully my hands, oh, there we go. There we are. I apologize for not being ready. I was brought in a little bit sooner than I had anticipated. So here we go. I'm going to show you something now with these cards. I'm going to show you how to cheat, okay? Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle the cards up. You give the cards a little shuffle and a little cut. Now, in order to do this trick, there are 4 cards that I'm going to use, 4 cards in particular that I'm going to use to do this trick. 4 cards that you all recognize and 4 cards that will stand out in the process of doing this trick. And those 4 cards are, of course, the aces. So now we have the aces out. Now we have those aces. Let's do something with them. There's the ace of hearts, the ace of diamonds, the ace of clubs, and the ace of spades. I want to teach you about card control. Now, card control is very, very important, and it's why I got into card magic in the first place, really, because I'm a bit of a control freak, I'll be very honest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these aces into different parts of the pack. There they go, into different parts of the pack. And I'm going to try and control those 4 aces. So you're going to see them go into the pack. I'm going to cut the cards. I'm going to give the cards a little shuffle like this. I'm going to cut them again. I'm going to give them another shuffle. And then I'm going to mix it up a little bit. And I mean quite literally mix it up, because I'm going to turn half the cards face up and half the cards face down. I'm going to shuffle the cards together, face up and face down, mixing the cards face up and face down together. Now, I don't advise you do this. It can take a long time to sort it out. But what it does leave you with is cards that are face up and cards that are face down. You've got cards face down. You've got cards face up. You even have, at some point, there's one of the aces, you've got cards that are back to back. Card control. This is what card control is all about. If I just give the cards a little cut like this and I spread through, you'll see that all the cards are now the right way around, apart from 4 cards in the middle, which just happen to be, well, near the end, the aces. So now we have those aces out. We can use them for this particular trick. We've got the ace of diamonds, the ace of clubs, the ace of hearts, and of course, the ace of spades. The rest of these cards, these are what are known as indifferent cards. Not because they don't care, but just that not the aces. So these are the indifferent cards, okay? So we're going to use 12 of these. So we'll put things like 8 cards, like the 3, the 2, and the 8 will go on top of the ace of diamonds. Over here, we have the king, the 10, and the 10. They're going to go on top of the ace of spades, the 8, and the 5 there, the 2, the 6, and the jack there. And that's all the cards we need for this particular piece. A little bit of housekeeping. And let's begin. We're going to begin with the ace of diamonds. I'm going to put the ace of diamonds face up amongst these face down cards. A little snap of the fingers and you'll see that that card now turns face down. It doesn't actually turn face down. It actually disappears altogether. Then we're going to take the ace of clubs. I'll do the similar thing with the ace of clubs, but I'll do it out in the open. The ace of clubs, we give a little rub and it changes. And in fact, it vanishes altogether. The final one, which is the ace of hearts. Now, the final one, all you have to do with the ace of hearts is give it a little tickle like this, and it disappears, and it really does disappear altogether. So if you've got no aces here, there's only one place those aces can actually be. And we have the ace of spades, the ace of hearts, the ace of clubs, and that is the ace of diamonds. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of card cheating for you there. Now, I wanted to show you something. Many years ago, I was a street performer in Covent Garden. I worked in Covent Garden for many years. And there's a routine that I did in Covent Garden for a very long time that I want to share with you now. And before I do that, let me just show you. I'm not sure I wasn't thinking of doing this, but I'll give this a go. I'll show you something very quick you can do. This is a kind of a Christmas decoration thing. You can do this. If you want to make your own Christmas decorations, you can try this. You just need a piece of paper. And what you need to do, you take any piece of paper. I'll show you how to fold it up. So it's wonderful. You can try this with the kids. It's great. The grandkids, whatever. It's a lovely little thing that you can do. Try and get rid of the perforation-y bits at the end. We don't need those. You just need to fold it in half. And you've seen the thing where people cut and they make a shape and it becomes something very different. Well, I mean, this is very similar to that. You fold up the piece of paper. And by the way, it is just a piece of paper. You fold it up that way, and you fold it. You've got to get a nice strong crease in it. Get a nice strong crease in it this way. And then what you do is you give it a little fold up. And when you unfold it, you should get the distinct impression that what you're looking at is actually a $50 bill. Now, I've been doing this all December, and I'll be honest with you, it's going to be a good Christmas, I think. I think I'm going to have a pretty good, so we'll get rid of that. So what was I saying? I was telling you all about Covent Garden. Covent Garden is where I learned to perform. It's where I started my career. And I want to share with you now the trick that I used to do in Covent Garden. It's the trick that I've been performing pretty much my whole professional career as a professional magician. It's often referred to as the oldest trick in the world. And people have been doing it for over 2,000 years. Most of them are dead now, actually. So I'm going to do it for you now instead. So it's a trick. I'm going to move my table back so you can see. Let me find the props. And it's a trick with these 3 things here. These are little brass cups. And the trick is known as the 3 little brass cup trick. I haven't been booked for my imagination. I haven't been booked since March, to be honest with you, so it's just nice to be out. So it's a trick with 3 little brass cups. Now, as well as the cups, I'm going to be using the magic stick, and I'll also use one of these. Now, to make this a little bit more interesting, I'm going to use 2 of them. And because you're being such a wonderful virtual crowd, this one will do a trick for you all on its own, but first I have to turn it into a magic ball. Now it's a magic ball. It's just a stick. The magic ball, do your thing, look. Not impressed. Okay, we'll do it. The third ball. Now, the third ball is really important. The third ball, what you do with the third ball is you spin the stick. I have to position myself. It's very cramped in this undisclosed location here on the south coast of England. I spin the stick. You've got to make sure you can see that. You tap the hand, and when you tap the hand, the ball, here it is, 3 cups and 3 balls. There it is. Hey, you can't fool all the people all the time. 50-50 on that one. 50-50 is my win rate on that. So as I say, people have been doing this trick for centuries, and I've been lucky enough to perform it all over the civilized world and in Birmingham. And because of that, I can do this in many different languages. Now, I'm going to ask you all to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you all to unmute yourselves if you wouldn't mind, because I'm used to doing this trick as a street performer in the busy streets of Covent Garden, and to sit and doing it to what looks like Celebrity Squares, for those of you old enough to remember Celebrity Squares. I need to hear you for this. So anyway, I'm going to do it in different languages because I can. Here we go. First of all, in English, not because I'm biased, but because I am. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. For the French, 1, 2, 3. For the Spanish, 1, 2, 3. For the Germans, 1, 2, 3. For the Romans, I. For the Americans,
You said orange switch.
1. Another 1. Another 1. I'm only kidding. If there are any Americans, I'm only kidding. I did actually do that in Florida, however, and they demanded a recount. But ladies and gentlemen, all you have to do for the next few minutes is keep your eyes on the little white balls. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the balls one at a time. The balls go into the hand. You give a tap and a blow, and the ball will disappear. The second ball goes into the hand. You give a tap and a blow, and the ball will disappear. The last ball, the most difficult one to do, I will do it out in the open. And there it goes, and it lands under here. You've got 1 under there, you've got 1 under there, you've got 1 under there, 3 cups, 3 balls. Some applause. We'll get there. We'll get there. Can I just point out, folks, this is not television, okay? I know it looks like television, but it doesn't have to feel like it. It really doesn't. Here we go. We'll put 1 under here. We'll put 1 under here. We'll put 1 under here. I just need to pick someone to say to. Let me see. We've got David McLaughlin. David, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, David. A, B, C. David, pick a cup.
A.
My daughter's picked A, Peter.
A. Okay. A. You sure about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're sure? A lot of people go for C at this particular point. C is quite a common choice.
Peter, we'll go for A.
Okay, let me just rephrase the question. A, B, C, C next cup. I don't know if I can make it. You want A?
Yeah.
Not a problem. Right. No, I couldn't do it. I'm not going to get away with it, so I'll move with this. Because A is the one we are going to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ball out of B invisibly. Now, for those of you who have never seen a miniature invisible baseball before, that's what it looks like. And that goes down onto the table down here, and it's going to run to the cup that you chose, which is cup A. Now, you're not going to see it go, but you will hear it go. Here it goes. La, 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 la. It looks strange, but it got me out of the army. From here over to here.
Hey.
Now I'll do this again, and there are 2 ways I can do this trick: with applause, or how I'm doing it at the moment. Let's do this again. This time, feel free to unmute yourselves, folks. I've been sitting in this cabin since the end of March. I'm going to take the ball out of the cup, and this time I place it under the other end. Over there. Just leave me 1 over here. So there's 2 underneath, there's 1 on top. This is what's going to happen. 2 underneath, 1 on top. Watch very closely. What I do is this. I run the stick down the side. I spin. I tap. it jumps from here and it lands under there. So you've got 1, you've got 2, you've got 3. Now I know what a lot of you are thinking. A lot of you are thinking there must be, you're thinking, some kind of hole in the bottom of the cup. That's what you're thinking. I appreciate that's what you're thinking. It's not the case. I'm going to put one under here. This one, I'm going to take that away and I put it in my small bag down here. Then I take this one away. That goes into the bag, which leaves me one under here. This is the one we're going to watch. Do not watch this one over here. I'll explain what's going on. You see, when I say that I'm taking the ball, I'm not actually taking the ball. It looks like I take the ball, but I don't really take it. And I don't know about you, but it looks very good from here. People think I take it, but I don't really take it. I'll do it for you in real time so you get the picture. I am taking the ball. I have taken the ball. I then put the ball away into the bag, but while I don't, because I really hold it in my hand, and as I pick up the cup, I drop the ball onto the table and it looks like it came from under the cup. But if I really take the ball and put the ball away, how many balls under the middle cup? Does anybody know what's going on? Does anybody care anymore? I tell you what, I'll make it so simple even I know what's going on, because what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to the most important prop in a magician's arsenal. It's as a street performer, this was the most vital thing I had. It's this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the magic hat, and it is a genuine magic hat. Now, this particular hat I've had for a very long time. It's traveled around the world with me many, many times. It's kept the rain off my face, the wind out of my hair. It's been very, very useful. You can tell how long I've had it. It's been very, very useful. And I'm going to prove that this is a magic hat, because people don't believe me. They say, Peter, it's not just a hat. It's a magic hat. And as proof of that, I'm going to show you what I believe to be the greatest trick in the world. A big claim, I know, but I'm going to move back. I'm going to sit back in my chair because I get very excited when I do this. Watch this. Ladies and gentlemen, my hand, the hat. Watch closely. So quite clearly, the hat is deeper on the inside. I know you know, don't worry. I know you know. Don't take it too seriously. I know. You're all going, but he's just bending it. I know. But it does look good. I like it very much. But this shows my level. It's not highbrow, this. You realise that, don't you? You've had the intellectual stuff earlier on. This is a small bald magician in Bournemouth. This is. What I'm going to do for you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make the balls vanish from underneath the magic hat. Now, as each ball vanishes, I would like you to all go, oh! Because I'm recording it and it looks much better on the show reel. No, I just like you all to go, oh! As if you were having a great time and it's nearly Christmas and you can smile and just make some noise. And I know you're in your houses on your own or with family, but just scare them. People will come running in if you're upstairs in the office on your own and they hear this. We'll see doors being kicked in. It's going to be incredible. So there are the balls. The balls are going to disappear from before your very sight. And here we go. I'm going to use the magic stick. There it is. And here we go. Ball number 1 has gone. Ooh. There's more of you than that. Okay, but that's right. That's a visual clue, isn't it? That's a visual clue. Okay. Ball number 2, that's gone too. Ooh. Ridiculous, I know. Ball number 3, the hardest ball to do, so the biggest ooh from you. Ball number 3 has gone. Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. The balls have gone. You've been a wonderful audience. Pleasure. Now, at this point, I appreciate there's maybe a few cynics out there. At this point, somebody normally shouts out, "The balls haven't really gone."
The
Balls haven't really gone.
We're getting there. And then somebody else shouts out, "He's not a real magician."
She's not a real magician.
Oh, not normally so aggressively with that one. If I wasn't a real magician and the balls hadn't really gone, I couldn't do this, could I? Vapoof. Bring them back. Okay, yeah, that's why okay, I'll do it for you. And ladies and gentlemen, I am going to make the balls disappear for you from before your very eyes. And I'm not going to use any gimmicks or tricks or trapdoors or anything like that. I'm simply going to become the physical embodiment of the expression, the hand is quicker than the eye. So literally through speed alone, these balls will seem to vanish from before your very sight. Through speed alone. 15 years of training and self-denial all coming together now in this one moment. Not the most productive 15 years, I'll be honest. Here we are. Watch as the balls disappear from before your very eyes using speed alone. Ladies and gentlemen, watch as the balls disappear. Here they go. Balls vanishing from underneath the magic hat. The camera can't catch it. It's so fast. Like a fox. Oh, no, come on. I was thinking it'd be slightly better than that. Not much better, but slightly. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have one, I have two, I have three. This is the only way I can make those balls disappear. Let me just pull these back so you can see that I'm not cheating you in any way. I am going to take the three balls. I place them away into my bag. I snap the fingers. They come back under here looking like a lime. Over there, you get a potato. You give a tap. Over there, you get a tomato. You give a tap. Over there, you get a lemon. And then you give a tap over there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a big finish from me. Boom. There we go. From underneath the hat. Ladies and gents, thank you so much indeed for your time and for your attention. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, and I hope to see you again at some point. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Well done.
Wow, do I follow that?
Very well organised.
Totally transfixed, totally transfixed. Thank you, Peter. Well, finally, it just now leaves me to thank you all for logging on and to wish you a happy, healthy, restful and safe Christmas and New Year. It's been lovely to see so many friends, so many people who we've worked with at SOM, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed this evening. So Merry Christmas, everybody.